Today I am going to explain a movie called The Glass House. The movie starts and we see our main character, Ruby, with her friends. Today her parents went outside, so she also went with her friends to watch the movie. The next morning, her parents discuss it. Actually, Ruby came home late, which was wrong. One day, there was the wedding anniversary of Ruby's parents. Ruby, taking advantage of the opportunity, she goes with her friends for enjoyment. When she returns home, she sees the police there. Police say, "Your parents have had an accident." Poor her, she was broken. She falls there in a daze. After that, we are shown Ruby's parents' funeral directly. Here were her neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Glass. They talked good about Ruby's parents. After the funeral ended, her uncle came to Ruby. Ruby had not seen him in his entire life. Uncle says to Ruby, "If you need anything, I am ready to help you." Ruby replies, "Where were you for years? Mother and you did not maintain your relation." Uncle tries to make her understand that sometimes this can happen in sister and brother's relations. "I always thought whenever I will get time, I will come to you and spend all time with you, but it was never became possible." Today he regrets it, so he wants to do something for Ruby in the future. Ruby also says yes to it. After that, her lawyer came to Ruby's house and he says, "There was an insurance of your mother and your father's money, so you will not need to do anything in your whole life." Ruby is still a teenager, and she will need parents. According to her parents, her neighbors are going to take care of her. Neighbors arrive here, Terry and his wife, Erin. Terry supports Ruby. It seems to Terry that if Ruby will start her new life in a new city, it will be good. For this reason, they shifted to Malibu. There they had a big house. They gave only one room to Ruby and her brother. This seemed awkward to Ruby. But Terry said, "This is temporary. You will be given a separate room." What Terry and his wife eat is food that is not liked by the children. That's why this night they ordered a pizza. Ruby could not sleep at night, so she went outside for swimming. It seemed to her that someone is keeping an eye on her. Because of this, she leaves that place. The next day, she went to her new school. The freedom which was given to children in the previous school, that much freedom was not given here. But still, she adjusts. When she came home then, Erin brought new clothes for her and video games for her brother. Both of them were very happy. At night, Ruby was talking to one of her friends about school, that how bad the school is. Erin heard this. She gets angry at her and says, "If you have to make friends here, you have to change your attitude." Ruby does not like that Erin was hearing her phone call. At night, she sees dreams about how could her parents have had an accident. One night, she was swimming at about 3 o'clock. Terry comes to her. He was looking at her with bad intentions. He forbade her from swimming at night like that. Ruby had a driving class at her school. In this, they were shown a video in which there was an explanation of how accidents occur. Due to this, Ruby got disturbed. At night, while dining, she feels emptiness, so she got up and left. Erin came to her and asks, "Do you have any problem?" Ruby replied, "I am feeling ill." So Erin goes to her room and gives her one of many medicines. Ruby wonders, what is the use of so many pills? Tonight, Ruby fell asleep deeply. Again, she woke up at midnight and she noticed that Terry and his wife are fighting. Terry also sees Ruby. The next day, in this new school, Ruby tried to make friends, but no one is becoming her friend. Tonight, Terry came to her and says, "I have a party in Hollywood. Would you like to come with me?" She tries to refuse him, but Terry does not agree. When they both were going there, Terry changed his mind. He takes Ruby to dinner at one place. He tried to make her understand that what you saw last night, these quarrels between husband and wife, keep happening. Sometimes living with Erin can be lonely. Then, at the time of coming back home, Terry was driving a car very fast. Ruby asks him to slow it, so he stops. He came close to her. Ruby was scared. Then, by changing his mind, he fastens her seatbelt. Reaching home, Ruby notices that Erin was injecting herself. Ruby felt very bad about everything. So, coming to her city, she talks to her lawyer directly. The lawyer thinks that maybe Ruby has a misunderstanding. He tried to make Ruby understand that if you cannot live with Terry, then you have to go live with different families as recommended by government, which will not be good for you. Ruby did not get the help for what she was looking for. But still, the lawyer was about to do something. As Ruby leaves, the lawyer tells everything to Terry by calling him. When she comes home, Terry and Erin talk to her. Erin said, "I am a diabetic patient. When I was injecting myself yesterday, actually, I was taking a medicine for diabetes." Ruby also believes them. In the next scene, Ruby was taking a driving class at her school. It was hard for her. One day, she goes to Terry's office to meet him. There were some people with Terry who were threatening him. They also tried to kill him. Seeing this, Ruby got scared and came into the workshop. There, she noticed that there is a car of her parents. In reality, it should have been destroyed in the accident. Terry goes home and explains to Ruby that this is business. This is what happens in business sometimes. Don't be afraid of that. At night, she takes out the news of her parents' death, from which she comes to know that, at the time when her parents died, they were driving a BMW, but her parents did not have a BMW. She called the lawyer and asks that whose car her parents were driving. Get some information about that. Tonight, Ruby has to complete an essay, but she fell asleep anyway. Terry notices this and wrote the whole essay at night. In the morning, when Ruby notices that, she likes it very much. In the next scene, we see that Ruby's social worker came to meet her at school. She was sent by Ruby's lawyer. When the social worker came to know that Ruby and her brother live in a single room, she felt bad. Now she was to come for an inspection. When she reached their home in the evening for an inspection, Terry had already separated their rooms. Ruby's brother also talks good about Terry. When all went outside to leave the social worker, Ruby noticed that there is a letter from her college in the trash can. Terry has canceled Ruby's college and got all of her money back. Ruby also got a letter from her uncle, which they did not show her. All that made Ruby very suspicious of the two. At night, she tries to contact her lawyer through email, but Terry had closed her account. Ruby noticed that Terry is disturbed and he's talking on the phone. She came down and was listening to his entire conversation. Terry was telling people on the phone that, "I will return all of your money. Actually, I had a business partner who betrayed me, but now I have a lot of money. I will return all of your money in small installments. For now, I am sending $30,000. These were the same $30,000 that came back from Ruby's college. It means that he is stealing all money from her. The next day, in school, Ruby got a call from her lawyer. He said that the car which your parents were driving actually belonged to Terry. Now, Ruby's all doubt was on Terry. Ruby's essay, which Terry wrote, was a copy. This thing was caught in school. Terry was behind it too. Now, Ruby knew that she is in danger. She cannot live in this house. At the midnight, she steals Terry's car sneakily. She awoke her brother and sat in a car. She could not drive properly, but still she escaped from there. Hearing the sound of a car down, Terry also gets up. He starts following them. Police stop Ruby on the check post. Meanwhile, Terry came there and Terry takes them both home. Ruby says to Terry, "You have killed my parents." Terry says nothing like that happened. It was their anniversary, so I gave them a good car. Ruby did not want to live with him. She tries hard to escape from there, but coming back home, Aaron made her unconscious by injecting her with a syringe. The next day, Terry went to Ruby's bank. From there, he tries to take out more money, but the bank was known that he already stole $30,000. They block her account. He got disturbed by this. In reality, Aaron had never taken diabetes and she always takes drugs. And she steals those drugs from the hospital. When this comes into the knowledge of the hospital's head, then she is fired. On this, Terry and Aaron fought. Aaron says we should not do anything like this. And then we come to know that they both were behind the accident of Ruby's parents. Aaron feels guilty of this. That is why she takes the drugs. Terry has no regret about it. He says, "I got an opportunity and I availed it." Tonight, Aaron needed drugs, so Terry went out to buy them. She tried to find drugs at home and she found them. When Aaron and Terry were a young couple, they had a daughter. She started watching her video. Getting emotional, she takes more drugs, because of which she died. Ruby noticed that and got scared. Terry returned home. He felt so bad. Coming down, Ruby was talking to someone on the phone. He got angry about this. Ruby and her brother tried to escape from here, but by seizing them, Terry put them in the basement. They tried to escape from the basement. There was a vein from which they can escape. Terry was about to go out from the home, but he changed his mind. And coming to the home, he falls asleep after drinking. They both come out of home slowly. They were about to run by taking the key to Terry's car. Meanwhile, their lawyer came here. He says to Terry that, "You have ruined everything. Bank has also blocked you. I think there is something fishy." The moment when they were both talking, gangsters come there to receive money from Terry. Actually, Ruby had called them and said that Terry is about to run away from here. Arrive here quickly. Now they beat Terry. He says, "Lawyer is my business partner and he had stolen all the money." The lawyer got scared of this. He says, "I had nothing to do with it." He wanted to go out from here, but the gangster killed him. Meanwhile, gangsters were talking Terry. Ruby had already taken out the brakes of Terry's car. Their car got out of control and they had an accident on the road. When Ruby and Terry were on the way, the police helped them. Coming forward, police saw that there was an accident here. He went down and saw that Terry was still alive. He killed the police. He came up, taking the gun of the police. Seeing that he was about to kill Ruby, Ruby got scared and comes to the driving seat quickly. She crushed Terry under the car. Now, in the last scene, we see that there was her uncle with Ruby and his brother. Now, he is going to take care of them. With this, the movie ends.